and Mrs. Sebastian Studio. I'm so glad you're here with me on a new learning adventure. Today we're going to be learning a little bit about the Olympics and especially the symbolism of the Olympic rings, and we're going to be uniting it with one of my favorite Japanese pop artist styles. And if you don't have the special changing paper that we're going to be using, I will be posting another video that you can look for on how to make your own. Let's get into our presentation. And don't forget to hang tight to the end. I have a super silly joke for you about runners. Ooh.
Every few years, thousands of the finest athletes in the world gather together to compete in the Olympic Games. They come from hundreds of countries, from all parts of the globe, and for the length of the Games, the world comes together on common ground in a celebration of peace and unity. But what are the Olympics? The first Olympic Games took place in Greece nearly 3,000 years ago in 776 BC. They were athletic competitions held in honor of Zeus, the king of the gods. The Games happened every 4 years, and during the Games there was an Olympic truce when wars and battles were not allowed so that the athletes from different cities could travel safely to and from the Games. Originally, the Olympic Games only had one event, a short race across a stadium. But through the years, more events were added, including boxing, wrestling, long jump, throwing javelins and discus, and chariot racing. In the ancient Olympics, only men were allowed to compete. The winners were awarded a wreath or crown of olive branches, which was a great honor, and often received money and other prizes. The final games of the ancient Olympics were held in 393 AD, ending a tradition of over 1,000 years. It wasn't until almost 1,500 years later that someone tried to hold the Olympics again. Small events modeled after the ancient Olympics were held in various places in Europe off and on for over 100 years, until the International Olympic Committee was created in 1894 by Baron Pierre de Coubertin of France. The first games organized by the IOC took place in Athens, Greece in 1896 and featured 241 athletes from 14 countries. Since that small beginning, many things have changed. Women first competed in the Olympics in 1900. The Olympics were expanded to include winter sports like skiing and figure skating, and special Winter Olympics were held to make that possible. Parallel Olympics, now known as the Paralympics, began to be held for athletes with disabilities. Not so long ago, Youth Games were introduced, which allows athletes between the age of 14 and 18 to compete. Today, the Olympic Games are held every 2 years, with Summer Olympics and Winter Olympics alternating, so that there are 4 years between each Summer Olympic Games and 4 years between each Winter Olympic Games. These are only some of the differences between the ancient Olympics and the modern Olympic Games. While the ancient Olympics were held in the same place each time, the modern Olympics are held in different cities around the world. In the ancient Olympics, winners were awarded olive branches, but in the modern Olympics, the victors receive medals. Third place wins bronze, second place wins silver, and first place gets a gold medal. The gold medals are not actually made of solid gold, however. They are made of silver covered with a thin layer of gold. Another important symbol of the Olympics is the Olympic rings. 5 interlocking rings of blue, yellow, black, green, and red on a white background. The colors of the rings were chosen because every flag in the world at the time had at least one of those colors on it. Each of the 5 rings represents one of the inhabited continents of the world. North and South America are counted as one, along with Africa, Asia, Europe, and Australia.
Now we know why there are 5 rings and why we have those colors that we have for our Olympic rings. Now we're going to mesh those 5 Olympic rings with a famous Japanese pop artist whose name is Takashi Murakami. He is Japanese pop art royalty. Let's look at some of his art. He loves to mesh a love of anime and manga with pop art that has turned into a new word called poku. I love all the bright colors and joyful pictures that go into his art. And believe it or not, some of these are supposed to be self-portraits. All right, in order to do our project for today, these are the supplies that you're going to need. A piece of color-changing paper. You're going to need a wooden stick with a point that you can use to etch onto the paper. If you don't have one of these, if your parents have a shish kebab stick, or if you have a roasting marshmallow stick, you could use it. Or you could even just break the tip off the end of a pencil, and you can just use the wooden end as your stylus stick. And you're going to need a circle tracer, but if you don't have one made out of paper, you can use like the top of a sports drink bottle, or even one of those snack lids that you get at the store that your parents can put yummy stuff in for lunch. And of course, you're going to need your imagination. Of course, you could also make a circle by going into one of your Microsoft programs like Word or Publisher to the desired size as well. If you're in my class, you have gotten one of these that you're going to need to use a pair of scissors to cut out so that you can use that one as a tracer. So here we go, using my good cutting techniques. I've got my circle tracer. And then for the Olympic ring, I know I'm going to need to put 3 on top and then 2 interlocking ones on the bottom. I'm going to start off with the first one being in the middle and slightly up because I know I'm going to need to put other ones down below. And then I'm going to use my stylus stick and I'm going to just trace around this. And what's great about this color changing paper is that that stick will scrape off the black layer that's on top, and that way that'll reveal the color that's underneath. And then my next one is going to be close to it, just to the left of it. The only problem about using this paper is that if you make a mistake, you're going to have to be really creative with how you're going to fix that mistake. And then one to the right. All right, and then I know that these bottom 2 are going to interlock them as we go through. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one. See. And then, since this really is a picture that's supposed to have the Olympic rings as its central interest, I'm going to go back. Sometimes you can even use this the bottom here to make the line a little wider. Or you can just use the tip and scrape. But I'm going to make those rings a little thicker by just scraping some of that black on there like so. There we go. All right, so now we have our Olympic rings. That's our PE infused part of this project. And now we're going to infuse the pop art too, but that doesn't mean that you can't go in and add some Olympic sport pictures in there. Like if I wanted to have somebody running, because the running is one of the Olympic sports, I could for sure add that in if I wanted to. And maybe I'd even have 2 people racing against each other. And I'm keeping this pretty simple. Not wanting to get too detailed just because I just don't have a lot of room. And maybe there would even be a finish line, and I could even write words in this if I wanted to. Finish. And this is where they're going in the picture. For sure I can. Hey, you know, maybe I'm going to put USA in here. I can even put things inside the rings if I want to. And even though it's not about who's first, second, or third, you know, I do believe USA is awesome, so I think they're number one. And look, maybe here I'll even put a flag. I really can't get all the stripes in there, but I can put at least a symbol that represents our flag. And of course, you can go in there and put lots of other things too. So I'm going to write the word Olympics. And, you know, because of the pop art where they put lots of happy pictures in there, you can put things that make you happy too, whatever that happens to be. So go ahead and spend the rest of your time adding a lot of these details. And oh, what happened if you make a mistake? Oopsies, that line wasn't supposed to be there. I've made a terrible mistake. What do I do? Well, I'm going to go and turn that mistake into a happy accident. I'm going to make this into a little butterfly. And you can go and keep adding more lines and more details. And then don't forget about the flat end for doing larger areas. But you can fill up the whole thing with things that you want. And you know that the Murakami style is all about filling in all the space. We really don't want to have much of this black that isn't filled in with some awesome designs that you've made up. When you feel like you're getting close, you know, really fill in with flowers or stars, with lines that connect things together. That really hones that spirit of that artist. Shapes can be your friends too. All right, I feel pretty good about this one. I can't wait to see what you're gonna do. Oh, I hope you enjoyed that lesson. It sure is fun making little doodles and things that you want. And knowing the history of the Olympics rings just makes us appreciate the Olympics more. All right, so here's your super silly joke of the day. Did you hear about the race between the lettuce and the tomato? Well, the lettuce was trying to get ahead and the tomato was trying to catch up. Yep, I went there. Okay, so remember, always be kind to everyone you meet. Hey, be a helper to someone today. It'll mean a lot to them and you'll feel good inside. And remember, always keep on making great art.